this. We're good. I'm just going to do this, and this. And greetings, everyone. Welcome. It's time for Discussing Tabletop. I hope everybody's had a great and wonderful week. If you haven't caught anything of mine, please go check it out. Otherwise, hey, we're going to talk about some tabletop here. Of course, joining me, as per most of the times nowadays, is my good associate, Momo.
Hello.
All right. I've thrown the docket up into chat. There is a bunch of topics about now. I will note, there was one topic that I had joked about earlier that I could have done, but it wouldn't have been a great one, and it really wasn't necessary, so I did it. About keel-hauling a certain group, and I just...
God.
It's like they're on a kick of clues and monopolies lately, like a lot more than normal. Like normally it's like once a month. Now it's been like every week there's like a new clue or monopoly. There was a clue and a monopoly this week. That's how weird it's gotten. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I blame Gen Con, which that's our first topic.
Yeah.
Gen Con's going on.
I saw two things on Twitter that came out of Gen Con that I'm personally excited about.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new Warhammer role-playing game that's kind of like it's a D100 system,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going back to their pulp fiction-y roots as mostly silly and satire. 40K has gotten away from that a little bit.
They want to recreate some of the stuff that they have.
Yeah, they want to try and recreate the feeling of how it used to be, and it is good that they're getting away from the more campy and trying to be a little more serious with their setting.
Well, I mean,
but I still like the dumb orc shit.
Well, I mean, like, the Warhammer has an extended universe, because isn't there a bunch of products that are technically set in the Warhammer universe?
There are many games with the Warhammer universe.
And that's
there are many tabletop RPGs for it, actually.
It's also like they don't note a lot of that sometimes. Like, is it like, is Blood Bowl connected to it too?
Blood Bowl is Warhammer.
And isn't it Vermintide too?
Vermintide is fantasy Warhammer.
Yeah, it's the fantasy one. But it's still Warhammer, but it's the fantasy one. But see,
it's the one people care about less.
Mm-hmm. But makes a really good, like, Left 4 Dead style game, I guess.
I like fantasy Warhammer personally. That's me. But this is more in line with something like Dark Heresy, which is one of their older role-playing games for Warhammer.
Okay. So, good for them to be doing that.
Yeah. The other thing is Battletech has a new miniatures game, which they have not had an update to it in a very long time.
Okay. That's something, because I did see that. I saw some brief stuff that Catalyst Lab was going to go on about a lot of BattleTech, things at Gen Con. I didn't see the depths. I didn't see what the result of some of their announcements, but
it's it's kind of BattleTech. It uses kind of the rules for BattleTech, but it's a steampunk warship miniatures game.
I'm fine with it, but honestly,
I'd rather have BattleTech.
I would rather have them brought back BattleTech, because the thing is, I think it's the thing that it's basically let's talk about it. Fallout Wasteland Warfare. They had rules for playing that RPG style.
Yep.
And the thing is, and that was the stepping stone to the Fallout RPG.
Yeah.
That was the original BattleTech. It was. It was a miniatures game with the role-playing on top of it.
All the additions of BattleTech have role-playing options.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this will, because again, it's a miniatures game using kind of the style of BattleTech's rules, but it's supposed to play more like Star Wars Armada, which I used to be a big player of, which is fine. It's you get your big ships to shoot each other miniatures game. Very expensive. This will probably be very expensive as well.
Yeah.
Those are two things I see.
I mean, I haven't seen a lot on it yet. It's the unfortunate thing that, when it's during it, it's hard to get the news. We'll probably have a bunch more news from post-Gen Con next week, for certain. The thing is, I feel like Gen Con, like, it just sort of happened. You know, I feel like there was, like, the, hey, tickets are on sale, and then, like, this week, it was like, oh, yeah, hey, we're all attending now. And, like, you know, there wasn't, like, a lot of fanfare in a lot of places.
I found out that Gen Con was happening was one of the DMs I follow on Twitter posted a cosplay of them at Gen Con, and I was like, oh, that's a thing.
Wow.
There was, like, no advertising for Gen Con. And I feel like there really is. I don't think there ever is.
There's not, but usually, I feel like for a lot of major conventions, a lot of publishers and game makers seem a lot more excited about it, is what I kind of feel like. I feel like I didn't feel the same kind of, like, drive and excitement and being like, we're going to be at Gen Con at this point in time in a couple of weeks, and, you know, blah, 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 check us out there, you know. Instead it was like, oh, we're going to be at Gen Con in, like, 3 days. Okay. You know.
Yeah.
It was a weirder attitude this year, and I don't know if it was reflecting changes in Gen Con.
I think it's that, and also, this is the first year cons have kind of been a thing in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are still, like, trying to get back into the whole convention going. So they've all been digital for the last, like, 3 years. Or they're just not happening.
I happened to catch a stream of someone who I follow, don't really watch very often, but they were going to be playing Return of the Obra Dinn. I really like that game, so I was going to like, oh, watch someone playing that. I like it. I enjoyed playing it.
Good game.
And seeing people play it. I also don't mind because it's sort of like you get to see the mental gymnastics people go through, which I like doing that, you know, to see how that compares to my own back in the day. Anyway, so before they start, they had an interesting discussion on conventions because TwitchCon has basically the one that's going to be has waived masks and vaccine things, and it was and their comment was, I don't think you should get up in arms about it because the time to get up in arms was while we were not having, you know, COVID be endemic, which it is now. So if you're going to a convention and you're worried about plague, don't go to a convention. You're gonna get sick at a convention, you know.
Take the precautions if you're gonna go.
Yeah.
But also, I think the thing that made me a little side tangent. They made me a little mad about the TwitchCon stuff. Mm-hmm. Is they cited that there were no mask mandates and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, I think you could just say something else because there kind of are in some places still.
I think
not in that part of California. Because Comic-Con had masks and vaccine requirements.
I think the thing is, you can do the not having those two requirements, but what you should do, rather than just say, I don't require them, is, like, just recommend them.
Yeah, you should recommend them.
You know, sort of
like,
safer
that way.
We're not gonna, you know, because the status, they could just say, because the status of the virus in the world, and because it's basically become endemic, we're not going to enforce masks, but we're going to recommend them. And I'm like, that would have been a lot better. You could have just changed your language a little bit.
There's a better way of wording it.
Same thing, just better language. You know, I think that's just, it's a PR snuff.
I know when I will go, if I go to convention, honestly, probably will, eventually, at some point. I'll mask up, make sure I have my boosters. Mostly because I had COVID in September, and it was bad.
I have probably had COVID at least twice, I'm assuming. The one time, I didn't test for it, but it was very similar to the first time I had it.
I was bedridden for a week in November, or in September, and so pretty sure it was COVID.
that probably was. I think it's the fortunate thing that Avery and my family has had it multiple times. We do a lot of stuff that we can't avoid it, but we seem to at least be relatively okay.
Yeah, like, I knew I was gonna get it eventually, because I see at least 100 people every day at my job. Just a matter when. And, you know, it sucked.
Oh, yeah.
I never want to experience it again.
It's the thing is that, like, you know, it's like, I feel, it's the thing, here's the thing. If I go to PAX Unplugged, I will have a mask with me.
Mm-hmm.
I will. I'm not going to do it because I think my family and stuff directly is threatened. I want to do it for other people.
Yeah.
Because, I know my family, we've lived through it, we seem fairly resistant. Even my mother, who's slightly immunocompromised, it's only slight, because she had cancer, but now is on a regimen of like a type of chemo pill for the rest of her life. It's not like a really hard chemo, it's a very light thing, but it does help keep, things from coming back. It's newer, better treatment kind of things, like that. But she hadn't had no problems either. The rest of us, it only ended up being like the cold or the flu for all of us. It spread through our house at least a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
My parents are straight in the face of people both when they work in the day.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I will still do that even if I go to PAX Unplugged. If they require something, great. If they don't, I would rather them say things like, recommended at least. Because even without COVID, it's probably good to, help mitigate, I don't know, con crud. It's a thing that's always existed, getting sick after a convention.
I have never gone to a convention once and been healthy the next week. I always get sick.
I have before, but it's kind of rare. It's the thing is, I don't go to a huge amount of conventions.
Fair.
My earlier conventions, I feel like I didn't really get sick, but again, it was a different kind of convention when I went to anime conventions.
Yeah.
Going to tabletop conventions, it's a lot more, you have to get close to people a lot of times, I guess. Anime convention, I didn't usually go to packed theaters. It was the empty theaters where I could have spacing away from people.
Fair.
So I guess that helped. But, I've gotten sick. I got sick after PAX South one time. I didn't get sick after PAX East before COVID, which was kind of weird, but Gen Con also, I think, had stepped back in a lot of their safety measures. So I think that's why this entire topic came up, that maybe there still is some hesitance because people want the reinsurance. So sort of like with TwitchCon saying it the way they did, it scares more people away than saying what we were saying they should have said. It's the same thing, but recommending masks means, we're a society, we're a group of people that would probably have a lot of masks. They're recommending it. Most of us would have it. That's the kind of mentality I think most nerdy people that would go to TwitchCon would think about, or it's something like a PAX Unplugged or a Gen Con. But I don't know how their language has been. It's not always been the best for a lot of these conventions, too.
No.
So, anyway. We'll see.
Gen Con's a thing. We'll probably have more news on this next week when all the announcements are compiled into articles.
We can see if there's anything that really is interesting that comes
There
out.
might have, the only two things I saw were the steampunk miniatures game and more Warhammer roleplay.
Yeah, I think it's they save something. They don't save announcements the same way, and I feel like tabletop announcements don't hit as hard as video games or movies.
No, there's not a lot of hype behind tabletop announcements.
Yeah, you hear something and you're like, oh, that seems pleasant, excellent, and you just give the little clap, excellent, excellent, excellent.
Yeah, it's like a D&D thing will get announced, and then people talk about it for an hour, and then it's back to business.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, that seems very nice. I will probably purchase that. Or, that doesn't seem up my wheelhouse. Most excellent. We'll have to discuss it when it comes out and we know more about it. Because, honestly, I think that's another thing. You can give a preview, a short one of a movie or video game, and even if they're a little deceptive, they're at least going to give you a pretty good idea about what everything's about. Can't really get that with a role-playing book or something.
No, you can't. And, I mean, I'm a little less civil when it comes to my opinions on D&D.
Mm-hmm.
I use less kinder words most of the time, especially with 5th edition.
I can understand that.
But I don't really talk about 5th edition that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I would compare my reaction to them being like, hey, we're going to basically do 5.5e to, say, Final Fantasy 16 trailer, it's a little more excited for Final Fantasy 16.
I think it's the thing is that they can't show off the 5.5 and what it would be. If they would be able to come up with like here's an actual preview of some of the information and like, you know, you get an idea how things work and we could be like, oh, that's really cool. They fixed all this thing and this thing and this thing and we knew about that, we would be more hyped.
You can't do a compact trailer with a tabletop game because how are you going to make a book interesting to look at in a video?
Yeah. I mean, I think you could. I think I could think of a way to make it work, but it would be like high production because you'd have to either do like an animation or that like half animation where they do like this split between like images or something, you know, and like kind of like zoom out.
That's what Grim Hollow does when they announce new things. Is they put out like a couple 30-second to a minute trailer of announcement. Here's link to go read about it.
Yeah. You need talking heads. Yeah, you need some people that would actually be able to discuss it too.
I need Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins to come on stage and tell me everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like showing off some cover art, some pictures that are really nice related, that probably are in the new book, and like describe some things like, you know, you're like, here's some major changes we're having, and you know, like, you know, oh, those changes. What are those changes? I'm interested now. That sounds like it could be a good change. You know, give us an idea what you're doing. They don't do that shit. Anyway.
Imagine making positive announcements other than making a single tweet to a UA link and then saying nothing else about it ever.
Or, hey, or like at our little thing of like, by the way, Spelljammer. Okay, we're done.
By the way, Spelljammer, bye.
Yeah. Let's talk about something else, though. Sorcerers in the World of Darkness.
Oh, shit.
I actually forgot they were a thing until I saw this book, and I was like, oh, fuck, I forgot all about this. It's, you know, I've talked a little bit about Mage on this show, but much older episodes, you know, that it is the most complex of the World of Darkness games. And it really is, to a degree, to run it, because magic is technically just altering the universe. But these are supposed to be people that have more inbound powers in a different way. Yeah. You know, they've like inborn gifts, or like, you know, they because it's like it's supposed to be hedge mages and hedge wizards and psychics, which are very different from your traditional characters, like an actual mage, Mage the Ascension. And they do say you could be part of a mage game. You know, you could be a psychic that's friends with a bunch of mages and be like, hey dudes, you know, I'll help you out. Sure, this entire like Ascension War thing, yeah, that sounds like terrible. I'll help you out. Or you can be like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna do my own thing.
I'm always impressed every time a World of Darkness book comes out how awful the cover is. Every time one of these books comes out, I'm like, you could have spent, I don't know, a little more money on the cover.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh, the Sorcerer book doesn't look that good cover-wise.
It's got shirtless man with gauntlet, chalice, and flaming sword.
That's the cover.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the current Mage Ascension book is a purple background in the Mage Tarot card, and that's it.
That's unfortunate. The traditional ones, a lot of the original books were just really simple. Some of those books I understood why, like the werewolf book. I understood why, because the werewolf book, in slightly graphic black and white, displayed some like horrifically tearing things apart occasionally.
Yeah,
but it's black and white, so it's not really
evil.
Werewolves are mean motherfuckers. They are tooth and claw. Things get torn apart. So I mean, like, I think it's the thing of like, my disappointment in the 5th edition of Vampire is reassured when more good books in the 20th anniversary series, which was the actual good, series of adventures, come out. Oh yeah. I will tell you, of the 3 main World of Darknesses, Mage is a headache, but fun. Political intrigue and fighting against your internal monsters, that's Vampire. Werewolf is still fighting against your internal monsters, but also fighting against external monsters because you are a werewolf and just murder shit.
Yeah, also, not everyone is a wolf. There's also were-spiders, and they're fucking gross.
The Ananasi, they are pretty gross. Unfortunately, there's also some other ones that are pretty nasty. The were-sharks? Ooh, they're not pleasant people. The Rokoya.
Yeah.
I'm probably saying their name a little different. Because, it's like if you're born from a human in one of those, they murder the shit out of you.
Yep.
They believe in, shark-born purity for their were species. They are not pleasant. And there's were-rats that just kind of hang out, God, I can't remember their name.
Were-ravens, too, they're pretty cool.
Yeah. There's some really good stuff. I would definitely recommend checking out a lot of World of Darkness. I have to do another World of Darkness game at some point soon. I keep thinking about it, just not organizing it. That's just where I've been. Because honestly,
I would like to do a World of Darkness game one day.
They're fun.
Because I've never done one. And BTM always looked interesting to me.
The system is relatively easy, technically, and all of the World of Darkness systems, even though they're slightly different, are mostly compatible. It's sort of you're not gonna know where they fit against each other if you're comparing power rating.
Yeah.
Honestly, werewolves murder everything, but Sorcerer, it's cool that it's out. It's continuing things for the 20th anniversary of Mage: The Ascension. I'm glad to see more. Yeah, they're just introducing more stuff. So good on them. I did want to bring up, because it's technically out. It's the D&D new starter set, available at Target.
Target. I shop there sometimes.
I have shopped there before, not for years. And I think my mother stopped by to get some stuff from my niece.
They're a little expensive.
It's had some stuff that my niece needed occasionally that wasn't at Walmart, or one of the other type of stores like that in our area.
Yeah.
So, that's why they've stopped by. I've physically not been in one in forever. I've been by one because,
The last time I was in a Target was when, I think it was when Fallout 4 came out, because they were selling the promotional Nuka-Cola that you could buy. Unfortunately, I didn't get one because people bought 10 of them at a time, which they technically weren't allowed to.
But the employees probably just didn't care.
Yep.
They're not paid enough to care.
No, they're not. They're paid $9 now.
Yeah. It's one of those awful things that you would hope that, the retailers put, rules in place, and they last as far as they pay their employees, unfortunately.
Yeah. I've said my piece with the starter set. I don't know the adventure, because I don't have it. I'm not going to buy it. Because I don't need a starter set.
I'll agree. I don't need one.
It's not for me. I don't like that it's level 1 to 3. I think it really should be level 1 to 5, because when it's level 1 to 3, people who play a fighter or people who play martials, they don't have time to learn the subclass. So they're going to miss out on learning a very important part of the game.
I do agree. Certainly they could play something that would be first level that gets it, but even at third level, when the third level ones, which are plenty of them, you're not going to get the depths of it. And things
for Lost Mines, for all of its terribleness, it was 1 to 5. It taught you pretty well how to play your character.
I'd say if you want to check it out. I mean, like, I would say, like, less recommended and more someone who decides they want to check it out. Let me know how the adventure goes. You know, just let me...
that's what I'm interested in, is the little adventure.
Yeah. I would definitely like to see their ready-to-play characters also, because that makes a difference when... Because the thing is, it's one of those things is... I feel like pre-made characters either fall under the... This doesn't function right if you're building your own character, you're going to get confused by it. Or it's just... You know.
Alright, so they actually have the pre-made characters for free. I can look at those.
Oh, cool.
So, there's a Hill Dwarf Cleric, which is built mostly like a cleric should be. It's fine. If I was building this, because they've slotted the 15 into con, I would put the 15 in strength and put the 14 into con, personally. That's just me, because I like being a cleric with a big hammer. Cleric looks fine. Fighter is a wood elf, so it's a dex fighter.
Okay.
Which is unique.
So an archery fighter. Yeah.
Archery fighter. It's fine. There's paladin human.
Yeah.
Built again. I would put that 15 into charisma instead of the constitution, but I can see where they're going with. It's iffy for me, because if I could see where they're going with if this was a 1-5 adventure, but because it is a 1-3, you won't ever get to boost that step.
Yeah.
There's a rogue.
A halfling rogue, which is
halfling rogue.
Quintessential, like what they always do.
Yeah, halfling rogue, criminal background. Mechanically, stat-wise, it's been built the strongest because it has 2 16s.
I think the human does get +1 to all stats, not a feat.
Yeah, human got is a little different now with whatever that new book is called. I don't remember. I think they just get the +1s now.
And then high elf wizard, which is...
That's standard.
I mean, they're standard, but I feel like it's like... I think it's the thing that I complain about here is these are incredibly generic, incredibly simple. Like the pre-made characters, let's take like a good example. Hey, that little Kobold adventure, the pre-made characters there. They have character. They have like... Even if you remove the backstory and you just take the sheets, each of those sheets has character built into it. Yeah. You know, and the thing is also, like, I feel like these are, like, so Spock standard. Like, the Dwarven Cleric, the Archer Fighter Elf, the, you know, Human Paladin, Rogue Halfling, Wizard Elf, you know.
I think
so
what
tropey.
Kind of bothers me the most about this is... Because this kind, in older editions, there was the standard party. You don't have to do that in 5th edition, and you're kind of encouraged not to. This is the standard party. This is the basic cleric, fighter, rogue, wizard.
If you have a 5th, then ranged fighter type.
Yeah. It's the classic. Which you don't really need to do in 5th edition. No.
It's, they cripple themselves a little bit. Man. It makes me, just seeing this makes me less enthused about this entire thing, and hoping that it, like, improves upon the problems of Lost Minds. It feels like it's just the same problems or different problems in a different way.
Well, I'm trying what? Okay, so even weirder, and more disappointing. So they have their subclasses picked already, which is fair. They're pre-built characters. So we have the cleric is, it looks like life domain.
That's fine. It's good, easy for starting characters.
The Wood Elf Archer is a champion.
Okay.
I feel like it's not a bad choice because improved critical is fine.
Yeah.
But Mark Batley doesn't really do anything for you.
Yeah.
The Paladin looks like they are. I don't really know Paladin that well.
Yeah, what oath they
I can't really. What oath gets Sacred Weapon?
Good question.
Turn Unholy, I think might be the oath actually.
It could be.
They're a devotion paladin, which again is the basic paladin.
Yeah, it's the basic that's the the lawful good paladin is the devotion.
Rogue's a thief, mine naturally.
Of course.
Rogue is naturally thief, and then the wizard. This is the one I'm most interested in. The wizard's an evocation wizard.
It's so box standard.
This is the most boring D&D party I've ever seen.
It's like so vanilla. It's like
oh
my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
What is
It's
Colin has a battle axe, of course.
This is truly is baby's first D&D.
This is Bobby's first.
Well, I will agree with you, Lightning, that it is fine for new players. But the thing is, I will also say, most people nowadays, that are going to have interest in D&D, no matter where they come from, usually have a moniker of intelligence to them.
Yeah. This is just ranged fighter doesn't make much sense to me.
Okay.
As a character, so it has a longbow naturally, and it's a dex-based fighter.
Yeah.
What melee weapon do you think it has?
Elf. I would say I would go for longsword. It's got a great sword. What?
Great sword with 12 strength.
With the strength anyway, I would have actually replaced it because you're a fighter rather than like a ranger. I would have replaced it with like a rapier or something.
Yes, I would have gone rapier or short sword, depending on what flavor you want.
Yeah.
Rapier because it's the strongest one, obviously.
Yeah.
But that just
great sword
feels odd. Like, it feels odd to see an elf with a great sword, but it feels even weirder to see a primarily dex-based character with a great sword.
Well, I agree with you, Lightning. They don't have to play them, but I feel like it's the thing of like you want to get off on a good foot with these, especially to give them as an option for new spirits.
I mean, I'm fine with these existing. I'm mostly just nitpicking.
Something old and grumpy. I will be as old and grumpy as I want to be.
But aside from the weapon choice, I think the fighter's fine.
They're all fine.
Easy to learn. Now, they should have been really bold and done a halfling dex fighter. In my opinion. You know what? No, they should have been bold. They should have done a party of all short people.
Look, this is the thing I'm going to say about it. All of it's fine. All of it's great for introducing new players. Anything like that.
All tiny.
But what my entire complaint is, it's like they fell back to their generic standards, and I'd have to look it up, but I recall they do have a bunch of, they have probably, give us twice the amount of characters, honestly.
Yeah, I would prefer if they had more of a choice, because this adventure's meant for 5 people, and they've given 5 characters.
Yeah, give us 10 characters and have a little bit of choice, and you could just do 10 different generic ones. You could have a generic bard, like a generic druid instead of the cleric.
You could do, I think what they should do first is do 12 characters for the 12 classes that are in the base rules.
Just like the 12 most generic of each of them?
Yeah. Don't include Artificer because that's not base rules. That's also more of a complicated class.
Yeah.
PHP base rules only. There are 12 classes. I would have preferred if they just did 12 characters.
Yeah, actually,
12 basic characters that you can pick from.
That'd been a great idea. And you could have added in a couple more of those unusual races like gnome, dragonborn, tiefling that like aren't there normally.
I think because these are the base rules, they have to go off of what is included in the base rules, which is why it feels so generic.
I mean, like, there's more in the base rules than just this. Some kind of like I'm going at it. I don't know.
Well, these are the base rule subclasses.
Like, but that's what I mean. Like, there are other classes too that you could have base rule subclasses too. Anyway, it's fine. Whatever. Maybe it'll get more people introduced. Maybe it won't. I don't know. The starter needed upgrade. I just feel like I should look at it at some point in time and say to myself whether or not this is an upgrade from the Lost Mines.
I'll have to read the adventure to truly know, because, well, I have fundamental issues with Lost Mines. I will say, as a way of learning Dungeons & Dragons, it does a well enough job of putting you up against enough enemies that are very different from each other, and a story that's interesting enough, even though a lot of it's not the most connected. It's a lot of side stories.
It does an okay enough job.
It's fine. The Goblin Ambush is a little too deadly, but that's on the DM.
And honestly, like, they could improve it, and that's what we hoped with this. I don't know if they... Anyway, we should move on. We can talk about this for hours. I got some animal-themed things, and one of them...
Animals?
I wasn't going to talk about this at first. There was one thing here that won me over to talk about it, but I was like on the fence about this because it's a Munchkin product. They did Turtle Carnage. Like Total Carnage. And the thing that sold me on it was a monster that's middle-aged mutant accountant turtles.
Alright, that's funny.
They also have Rigger Tortoise and the Sea Turtle, which is a horrible, like, eye monster abomination turtle. Look,
I mean,
this is classic Munchkin cleverness.
Decent puns.
See, that's the thing is, that's the problem. This is what I like them doing. I'm like, fuck you guys. You do this, and I'm like, I like this as a concept. And then you do some kind of shit down the road, which makes me feel bad. I don't know. Oh, God. Why? Look, I'm going to say, like, if I could recommend a modern Munchkin product, this would be the kind of thing I'd probably recommend. You know, these kind of things here. It's only $11. Granted, it's only 30 cards, but these small packs are around 11 anyway. I mean, it's like, they charge an arm and a leg no matter what you're going to do. And that's how it is for most expansions for a lot of stuff anyway. So I'm not going to complain too much. Expansions aren't cheap, and they have a lot of them, usually for a lot of games. And Munchkin's still fun.
I have played Munchkin a handful of times when I was in middle school. It was fun.
Yeah.
Do I have a desire to play it as an adult? If someone asks, maybe. It's kind of where I'm at.
It's like if I would break out the old tabletop simulator and be looking through it and be like, I kind of feel like Munchkin today. Pull out
if someone's like, hey, want to play Munchkin? Sure.
Yeah.
I got hours to kill.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that's kind of where I kind of sit a lot of times with it, too.
There's more exciting games to play.
There are, and as much as I loved trying to collect all the Munchkins back in the day, they certainly outpaced me for being able to buy these long ago. And for having a budget for them. I stopped having a budget for them. I have other things that I would like to collect that I would like to put on the budget, honestly.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you would like, as I said, this is probably, if you want to add to your classic Munchkin experience, this is probably fine to do it. You know? Gotta be honest. It's just a little bit more. They have a lot of these little bit mores, and they're fine.
Yeah, they're, like, if you really like Munchkin, they're fine, and there's... My problem is they're kind of, a lot of the time, the same thing.
It's hard to be this clever because they have so much stuff. And I just thought about it, like, too. If I would have had all the cards that are for the base set, just the base set, that they've released now. How fucking big is that pile?
Oh, it's too big.
Just base set stuff. Or base set and like base set card style, you know?
It's like pretty big.
Yeah.
I think, right?
It's a lot.
It's big enough where you would have to split the deck in half at least.
And you used to be able to... They used to have the rules for shuffling them together. Mm-hmm. That's when I went to a convention where someone had like 10... it was maybe like 6 munchkins. And they did the rules of, we just didn't shuffle them together. We just had all the different piles, draw from the one you want.
Yeah.
Called it a day. But anyway, let's move on to something else that's animal-based, but was also kind of interesting and less middle-of-the-ground frustrating or interesting. You want to run a wolf pack? Wolves by Pandasaurus. They've announced it here. It's a pack-building strategy game for 2 to 5 players. You want to be the most dominant pack. So it's all about like terrain control and then like things like that. And look, honestly, for such a simple concept, it seems like they made a pretty complex game, and I kind of actually like that idea too. You know,
I love these kind of board games. These sort of tile-based control area board games. I think they're very fun.
Yeah.
Pretty simple in concept. Execution-wise, they can be a little complex. And it looks like this at least does interesting things with the concept.
Yeah.
Looking at these wolf abilities.
You got different actions that you can have. There's 5 main ones they talk about, and you kind of like just build the regional stuff. It's just it looks neat, honestly.
Yep.
So,
pretty good.
Yeah. Like it's like I see stuff like this and I'm like, that's a nice board game. You know, it's definitely one. If I would ever meet with people again, I would like maybe one day want to play. Oh my god. The depression of now less like, you know, living farther away from people, you know. Just not around people anymore.
I feel that.
But you know what? We can talk about something else that I didn't know would be a thing. And, you know, does anybody know American Psycho?
Great movie.
Yeah.
Also a pretty good book.
They made a board game out of it.
It feels unneeded, but sure.
Yeah. It's Yuppie one-upmanship. You're comparing your assets to obtain the most valuable assets, secure reservations, the trendiest assets, maintain your personal appearance, and have a business card that better business card than your hated colleagues. But you also have to control your murderous rage, apparently.
Okay, that's at least kind of fun.
Yeah. So you have like a psychotic rage deep inside that can lead you to murder and stuff like that.
Those of you who've never seen the movie, one, I recommend it. It's a very weird movie.
It is a very weird movie.
There's a scene where they compare business cards, and it sets off a very interesting chain of events. Did you know they made a sequel to that movie?
I didn't. Really?
Yeah, it's American Psycho 2. Let me look up the full name. Yeah, okay. American Psycho 2, All-American Girl. It does not feature Patrick Bateman in it at all. But it has William Shatner in it. And I've seen it. He doesn't want to be there at all. It's maybe the worst movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
But yeah, they made a sequel to it, which is so bad.
So it is a trick-taking game, and I've played trick-taking games, but it's hard to define them because I never remember how to define them. It's not a bad thing. It's basically like about playing cards and manipulating things and a little bit of like deception, I guess, in your way. That's the trick-taking thing, kind of thing. I forget how. God damn it, man.
Trick-taking games.
Yeah.
It's a card or tile-based game which plays a hand-centered in which play of a hand centers on the finer. So it's got finer rounds, you need cards. Cards
Yeah.
are units of play which are called tricks, and then.
Okay.
yeah.
It's like you have stuff in your hand that can trump other people. Yeah, it's like
that's
it's
one of those.
It's one of those where you have to. Okay, that makes sense because you're trying to one up each other and play the best stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to be kind of like, it's like you have your hand of cards. You have to know when to like fold on something or when to win on something, and kind of like accumulate points that way and play the correct cards. And your playing cards determine who's the best stuff. And scenes from the movie will determine the flow of each turn. Okay, so there's scene cards, murder cards, special cards, and then the suit cards. I'm assuming
I can see this being fun.
Yeah. It's got like... It's trick-taking games can be pretty simple, but this one feels like it's a trick-taking game with a couple of extra layers on it, and I think that helps improve it. And putting on the idea that it, like, honestly speaking, the way they're going about this, I think it's really good for making an American Psycho board game. I think we've talked about this a little bit, like, if you have a property, you can make a good board game out of it if you have the right direction from it.
And this is a good direction.
Yeah.
Also, I love that on the back of the box, the quote, "Let's see Paul Allen's card" is there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's at the top of the back of the box. Let's see Paul Allen's card. God, this movie's so weird, but I love it.
It's got quite. I look at these cards on the back of the box, and it's got quite a look to it too. I like the kind of stylized look it does too. Yeah.
I will leave you with one other fun American Psycho fact, viewers. There's a musical version.
I heard about that. Did not know
good.
much about it.
It's very bad.
That sounds about correct. Well, Free League Press is bringing us a couple of European RPGs.
Ooh,
let's talk about
Europe.
The first one.
That's a place.
The first one is a classic, getting a new edition. Sweden's first RPG, Draknar och Demonen. I'm probably butchering the shit out of that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not how that's meant to be said.
Basically, Dragon's Bane. The West here. Is getting a new edition. It's a 40-year-old, game. Cool. It's like this is like an RPG made in Sweden during the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about that. Honestly, it's the weird thing. I don't know a lot about it. I've heard Dragon's Bane before, but it's another one of those ones that like I've heard the name of more than I know a lot.
Scroll down to look at some of the art. One, art's pretty good. Two, that's a duck man with two swords.
There is a duck man with two swords.
That's Daffy Duck has had enough.
I am curious about the duck man with two swords. Honestly, that just is like it gives you in a very odd direction, and I'm like, duck man with two swords, okay. I'm more curious now. Just more about what the heck that means. But yeah, so again, classic RPG. I'm sure they've had some more editions over the years, but it's the thing that there are modern sensibilities that have come in the past 5 to 10 years that a lot of games don't have and could probably use a little bit of upgrade on.
Yeah, I don't think this game ever made it to America.
Okay,
I'll be honest.
I
don't know. At least maybe not like because it has like 8 editions or something. It's old. That's much as I know. I also know there's a video game of it, and I did play the video.
Okay. Again, like I've heard of Dragon's Bane, but I don't know a lot about it. Like you hear a lot about different RPGs over the years, and like you're like, oh yeah.
It was Dragonfire Well of Souls was the game. It was actually like pretty alright.
That sounds familiar.
It's kind of that one of those generic. This is video game based off a table RPG title.
Yeah, they call it a mirth and mayhem role-playing experience.
That sounds about right.
They wanted to be good for long campaigns and also for one-shots, and I think that's like a good goal. Again, it's sort of like what we've talked about, where like 5th edition's great for short adventures, one-shots, and it's not great for long campaigns.
Apparently, at one point, Paradox Interactive owned it.
Huh. That's interesting. Okay.
Paradox 13.
So that's the first one. But there is also, I am 99% sure I've talked about this one over the last couple of years. But here is the formal release of Vaesen. It had been funded on Kickstarter. They're having a pre-order for the physical one, or get the PDFs now. And it is a, basically, Britannia, Ireland, very, I guess, Celtic lore, would that be?
Britannia and Ireland.
Mythic Britannia.
Mythic Britannia, that would be, yeah, Celtic.
Yeah, so it's very...
Celtic and Scots.
Yeah, Celtic and Scots. So that's the kind of role-playing experience you'd expect to experience. Which, again, like, this is a good thing, because, like, even like that, I would say, like, we talk about, like, you know, the generic fantasy, and, like, even this fantasy is very different than the fantasy we experience now.
Yep.
And that's an English-speaking well, it might have not originally been English-speaking, but an English-speaking country that's history is based on this. So it's sort of like, we don't have that experience the same way, and it's good to get, like, even this.
I think it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I am a fan of mythology. I love these kind of folk stories and folk monsters.
Okay.
So I like this.
So this one is actually, Vaesen, the RPG, is the core RPG. This is the new book for it. The Vaesen originally one was the Nordic one. So I like what they're doing here. It's a horror, like, kind of like fairy tale RPG.
Yeah,
and they're
fairy tale horror.
And they're introducing more regional, like, things. And that's really cool. Okay.
Yep.
God. You know, that's awesome that they're being like, I can take this region and now do our theme on this, so you can, like, use these other mythologies.
It'll be interesting to see, because I might read it eventually. I often forget to just back things on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because I have a terrible memory. However, it will be interesting to see and learn if they got this mythology correct and did their proper research into it.
That's a good question, because I feel like the original people that worked on it, probably the original version of it, was Nordic because the people were from that region that worked on it. So learning about these regions, because again, like, honestly, you can probably call out a lot more regions in Europe that will have similar old mythology and stuff that exist there. All the major regions in Europe have those, you know?
Yeah, because this is written, apparently, by the person, or one of the people, who made Warhammer Fantasy.
Okay.
So he's got a lot of pedigree behind him.
That he does. Okay, so it's just a question of how well that pedigree ends up.
Yep.
So, yeah, cool.
Oh, he also did White Wolf. Worked for White Wolf, apparently.
Neat. So one last main topic for today, for our things, is Stillfleet, the core rulebook. This is a really... It's interesting. When I read about it, I could say, like, this was, like, a weird kind of sci-fi RPG, and that's why I kind of brought in.
Mm.
It's like a... it's an... Let me describe, like, this is their paragraph here describing. It's its own time-space paradox, an acid trip on a good time built on a foundation of political tension between a company and its medieval market worlds. It's a rules-light system with hundreds of options for powers. It's a genre vaporizing work of science fiction. It's basically like you're working for a weird company that, like, gathers up, like, stuff from older, like, fallen civilizations and stuff and brings it back to amass it and then, like, resells it to, like, current existings, you know?
So you're the British.
You're basically space British. Today's anonymous directors effectively govern across its so-called provinces, a billion sapient intelligent beings, primary different groups of humanoids, and giant cricket-like bugs named Wetans. inhabited worlds beyond the spindle remain locked in unequal trade agreements, befitting title of void mining. It's such a weird setting, you know?
It's definitely unique.
It's space capitalism in a way, too. Like, you know...
Yeah.
It's... You're put in, like... I think that's the weird thing, is, like, you're put in, like, a weird position of, like, having, like, this character that's going to go and, like, do all these weird and crazy adventures, but you're space capitalist, you're working for, like, a big company or something that controls part of space. You're basically one of those megacorps in Stellaris.
You're working for Jeff Bezos as he sits on the throne of mankind.
Which is made of the skulls of his enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a skull throne, that's different.
I mean, I guess it's like they're cheap plastic knockoffs of the skulls of his enemies. That he also could sell at one of his places for a low price with free shipping, if you subscribe.
Yeah, and just make sure you remove that very important cultural bridge so you can get a super yacht through.
Mm-hmm. No, like this one is like it's weird and sounds interesting.
It's a very unique RPG.
Yeah.
Like the little bug man in a vest.
Yeah, the cricket people.
Pretty good.
You know, they're one of the, they're one of the remaining civilizations, at least, have been found by this company and has been amassed by them under their control. Just good on them. Oh, cricket people. It's funded. 24 days to go. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Okay. We got a deeper discussion topic today, and we should get to it.
Alright.
So I call this topic Big versus Small Plot. And we have talked to a degree about some of this stuff. But I think it's the idea that there's big plots and little plots. You can have a game of all little plot. Things that are, like, very personal. Very, like, maybe city-based, town-based, just your character-based. Maybe your characters heard rumors of a dungeon nearby and their entire adventure is checking out this dungeon. No one knew about it. There's nothing special about that dungeon that's world-threatening or evil.
It's just a dungeon.
Yeah, just exploring a dungeon. Or maybe they decide to go fight some bandits for the sake of, getting a bounty. Those are small plots. You could have world-ending threat. That's a big plot. It doesn't have to be that big, but they're there. I think it's the thing that understanding the kind of game you want to run, how long you want to run it, and how epic you want it to feel will tell you how much big and how much little plot you want.
Yeah, I feel, this is me personally, I feel that if you're going to do a longer game, you will need a bigger central plot to drive it home, because otherwise the players aren't really doing anything.
Thing is, I can see that being true 95% of the time, but as you were saying that, I did think of something that would have been a small plot in a big game. Maybe your players are part of a like an adventuring guild. That in a boondock city, and something has happened, and they've gone into like massive debt with some debtors back in the capital. The entire plot of a long-running adventure could be getting out of that debt, and it could be really difficult to do. That's a pretty small plot point, and it's very personal to the players, but it could drive a game. Granted, I think, I was going to say, to make it work, it has to be then more personal.
Yeah. The way I run games, is I kind of use both of these.
Mm-hmm.
As it starts out, I will do little kind of throwaway plots, so the party goes out and does things, and they get to know each other, and then I will start to introduce a threat that will escalate throughout the game. And I usually make like I usually do 2 or 3 threats.
Mm-hmm.
And I let the party pick which one they want to deal with.
Yeah.
And then the other ones get dealt with, I don't know, by NPCs.
Yeah. You just make it like that. It's not going to be stuff that the players necessarily have to deal with.
It's like, you know,
the
players aren't the only adventurers out in the world.
Yeah. Very true of a thing.
Like, again, the most recent example I have of this is Star Wars, where you guys started out mostly just doing crime.
Mm-hmm.
Bounty hunting. And then you met a weirdo. And originally, she wasn't going to be major villain. Then
things happened.
And then, like, it's no one's fault. It's maybe my fault. No one wanted to do anything. Everyone wanted to go in different directions, so you all just kind of went to, like, whatever fucking planet anyone suggested. So then, like, well, I need something. I guess you'll do. Put the mask on. Sure, I'll figure out what happens with that.
I think it's the thing that, like, for my character, I had, like, an idea of what I wanted, but, like, where I was going to go in the game, I unfortunately built it in such a way that it was sort of, like, dependent on what the other people wanted. And then, like...
Yeah.
And then the thing is, like, also, like, I don't feel like... Nax doesn't have great ideas that I would have gone along with.
No, Nax maybe has some of the worst ideas, but they are funny.
They're funny ideas. I'm not going to complain about them, like, overall. Like, but I feel like if Nax had led the way, it wouldn't have worked out for my character.
I feel like...
Yak did... Early Yak might have been the same way, because they were very... Like, Yak has developed a little bit more, I feel.
Yeah,
like.
Yak has become a freak, but also a good person.
Yeah.
I don't think Nax is necessarily a bad person. And I think that's a perception in the game that a lot of people held that was wrong. Nax is just a bounty hunter who hasn't been told what is going on.
I feel like a little bit of the preconception of Nax tends to be the Nax attitude about it sometimes.
Yeah.
Nax is very attitude-rich, and it feels sometimes competitive with the player.
It can be competitive. It can be hard to work with that.
Yeah.
It probably, on my part, I should have addressed it earlier, but I think it's worked mostly fine.
We're
outside of a couple of instances.
Getting better, I think. We're finally hitting a good spot.
Dysfunctional family.
Yeah. Rav, it was fine. Like, I feel like it was a good mysterious figure, but it was kind of like, I feel like it was the thing of, this is the thing I do have to, that I think made it work, but also is a complaint I have. Because of the nature of Ravshai, the nature of her character, it still works in the team. Putting that character in charge of the ship we were on made it more difficult to make those choices.
Yeah.
I think. Because Ravshai was a character that is a very quiet, slightly standoffish character, you know?
What I should have done... what I should have done, and what I will do for the next Star Wars game I run, is eventually you'll get a ship. You won't own it or be the captain of it. You won't be the captain of it at first.
Yes.
Eventually you'll get it through whatever means I desire. Either the captain dies, or he gives it to you out of trust, or something.
I think it also reflects similarly to the Mandalorian character, that they have a ship that we, like...
Yeah.
We don't have a ship of our own that we could have just recruited people onto. We're beholden to Lightning's power every time, and, like, it does feel like it's harder to, like, Because again, like even the Mandalorian character is a very different character than Ravshai, but is like has some similar things of like they're a quieter character. They say things when it's important, but like that makes it difficult to like because they own the ship, and I feel like these have caused some difficulties on both ends.
Yeah, Eve. I think Eve works because Eve is your taxi driver.
Yeah.
You pay her. Ravshai. Admittedly, I had a lot of difficulty motivating Ravshai personally, but that's just because I wasn't 100% sure on how. I think it mostly money works. Money works for fucking everyone, Dangled some credits in front of a player, and they'll be like, "Ooh, I'll go do that."
Well, I think it's something that we didn't talk about, but we could motivate Eve with. I'm pretty sure the Purge of Mandalore has already happened.
Yes.
So we could motivate with, we tend to fight people from the Empire, get paid, get some revenge, that kind of thing. That kind of information would work as a very good motivation. Like, I think that's the thing is, we all have different motivations that kind of function out, and I feel like, yeah, some characters are easier to get their motivation. I think that's, again, like, why Nax has some issues is motivational kind of things sometimes.
It unfortunately has turned out for Star Wars, not necessarily unfortunately, because I think it is still an interesting story.
Yeah.
And an interesting big plot is, I had 2 big plots planned out. I scrapped the third one because it really, to me, seemed like no one wanted to do crime or terrorism. Shocking, I know, that a party of mostly neutral and good characters don't want to be terrorists.
I feel like that route, which would have been, I guess you could call it the Saw Gerrera route, where you're a rebel but you do the extremes. I think my character could have gone for that in the right circumstances. But I feel like a lot of those circumstances didn't happen early on to push me that direction. It was a lot of things that pushed me in the opposite direction. Like, honestly, a lot of the extreme violence very early on probably was like...
there was a lot of extreme violence.
It was like,
man.
I'm like, that was unnecessary. We didn't need to do that.
Shit.
Like,
when y'all fucking started doing war crimes on Hoth, I had to take a moment to like, guys, fucking, it's like, this is like session 4, you're already starting? Jesus.
Yeah, like that...
Save it for like session 10.
Like, it was that thing of like, I feel like my character at that point in time probably like trusted the 2 of them, but also didn't like probably understand the depths of what they did. And it's sort of like once they did it, it was sort of more like a, God, that was a little much, that I
conscript, guys.
I should have said something, a little bit of regret on that one, but it was also like, you don't know what to do about that. It's like you're enemies with these people. And I think that's the problem is they drew a lot of that stuff out that made it very difficult to go that route.
Went full on, I want to kill everyone really early.
Oh God, I think that's an issue too. It's sort of like they've definitely gotten better at that kind of stuff, but I feel like early on, I feel like the 2 of them were very almost murder hobo-y.
A little bit.
That it's drawn back very well.
They've gotten a lot better.
Yeah. But like they were one step from being like too much.
Anyways, that was a mega side tangent.
But I mean, like
what I was gonna say, continuing, is I had that plot once I scrapped most early because it seemed like again, circumstances. Most of the party didn't want to do it, and I can only dangle so much money in front of people to motivate them to do terrible things. So it left me with one of 2 plots. Fighting the Empire and joining the rebellion, or at least being a rebellion aligned.
Yeah.
Or pursuing this ex-Inquisitor who is causing trouble.
I think it's the thing.
I could have run either.
Yeah.
no one wanted to join the rebellion, which immediately made the rebellion plot harder to do, but possible, so I left it open. But as the game went on, the Force users in the party, mainly Sivril and Kinsarin, their voices sort of grew into be the ones picking the directions as kind of the quote-unquote leader / person suggests the places.
Yeah.
So it veered into the Force-related plot.
Like, I think it's in that one is Sarin was the one that really drove us in the Force.
Yeah.
My character, though I've gotten to that point in time of like, yeah, why don't we go over here then? You know.
Yeah, because like I'll tell you what would have happened if you did more of the rebel stuff. You would have gone to Korriban and killed her. Bam, minor villain dead. Nothing more comes out. You would have got a weird mask.
Honestly, like, I would have been fine with that plot too. Like, I think in a different universe where we went that plot, I think I would have been fine with being rebellion adjacent. It's sort of like...
Yeah. You're kind of rebellion adjacent anyways.
Well, the thing is, it's sort of like in this last session where I said, like, basically, like, when we're done killing this lady, I'll probably join you guys. It's sort of like, it's the thing of everything that's happened has made me want to help them out more than anything else. It's sort of like, I've always kind of half agreed with Nax's attitude of like, there's not, both are bad, let them sort it out. But I'm like, now I'm like, well, yeah, but one is worse than the other for very obvious reasons, and I prefer it.
That if I was in the game, because I as a DM, I can't really disagree with a player's attitude as a DM because it's them personally. If I was a player in this game, and someone said to me, hey, you know, the rebellion...
What?
That's not true, Lightning, and there'll be... Things will get explained later to why that isn't true. That's my train of thought.
It was like rebellion / rebuilding the Republic, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
The mindset of, well, the rebellion / Republic and the Empire are basically the same thing. As if I was a player in this game, I would just, my argument would be, gee, I don't remember when the Republic blew up a fucking planet.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, none of us, because again, like, it's sometimes hard to like figure out the exact, we talk about the time frame, but getting that time frame like in your brain is not always easy. So I think it's certainly like that hasn't helped in giving a good thing of saying that to
yes,
Max.
I think to address Lightning, I think part of the problem with why the difficulty scaling seems like it's outside of the tiers of play is because of the way Star Wars ship classes are named. What I'm using is a Super Star Destroyer, but it is not an Executor class. There are like 5 classes of Super Star Destroyer. None of them have a different goddamn name.
God,
because George Lucas is an amazing writer.
Or gets really good people to help him write stuff for extended material.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why I think maybe the difficulty feels out of the scale of play is the names for Star Destroyers. They don't really. They're so unknown and so minuscule and minor that unless you are like a hyper mega nerd that bought the fucking essential guide to starships like I did, you're not gonna know the difference between any of these ships.
Ouch.
Yeah. That's because, and I've made this complaint before, is Star Wars is a beautiful world, but on a technical level, all of the starships don't work because they all do the same fucking thing and have such minor differences that make a big impact on what the ship is that it just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's just dumb. But things will be learned later as to why it's not outside of Tears of Clay. I've thought this through.
I think that's
once.
like side tangent to talk about like that game a little bit. I think that's why like my character went to the extremes first anyway, because I felt like they have a super star destroyer and all this big fleet, and I'm like, holy crap, we'll get murdered if we go there. You know, that's why I'm like going to the extremes. Also, I think that's the thing too. Is it feels like it's outside of us to a degree too.
And I will tell you, I have actually planned for you to go meet with someone from the Empire who might help you.
Okay.
Because I established there was someone who would potentially help you very early on.
Yeah, it's better to meet that person than anybody else currently. Great idea. Yeah. We'll worry about that. But
it's a good idea.
But
again, I think part of that is the fucking shitty wording on Star Wars ships.
Talking back to the plot point at hand, now that we kind of like talked about plot a lot there, I can bring up like two games that have very different ways they do about plot. Let's take Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
There really isn't a big plot per se. Like now in this last adventure, they were like, well, the Cheliks are doing something. It might be something, it might not be, but like again, like most people in the game world could probably pass off of like, Cheliks is at it again. You know,
oh
that kind
boy.
of, you know, they do that shit a lot. You know, they have pirate hunters and stuff like that. So it's not outside the wheelhouse of the world to be half concerned and half not concerned. You know, it isn't a huge plot point yet. Then there usually is this like, you know, small plot points here and there for the different adventures. That kind of like, this adventure, here's the medium to small plot that you're doing. Oh, it leads into this next thing. And now you're sort of moving into a larger plot kind of thing of becoming a pirate lord kind of thing. But it's very subtle the way it does it there. It's not a big like, there's a big bad we're going to have to deal with eventually. Then there's Children of Wrath. I established early on, there's something weird going on. They had like a year-long out-of-game journey to a college to try to find out about this stuff. They were not good at finding information.
No. And then, for Children of Wrath, I will say, the big plot, you know, the big villains people who are doing evil things, you know, it feels like that plot has been replaced by the fact that one of the heroes is literally worse.
It's that thing of like, I don't know, I can escalate the villains to a point where they're maybe equivalent currently with Kaz.
I don't know if you can make them worse.
I can't make them worse.
I don't think it's possible.
Because it's the problem that Kaz is bad and Carrie's an enabler still.
Yes.
Like, the thing is, Carrie is like, we were all there. Carrie should have said, me and Kaz made a mistake. Because really, they were the two behind it. And like,
I'm
you know,
a
like...
victim.
Yeah. You and Claude are a victim.
Yeah, I was present, you shot me. That's why I was present.
Yeah. Comic book evil, hot take, not interest. I can do a little bit. I like barely understand their motivations at this point in time. These characters have gone so weird. Like, you have motivation and you're the new guy. My
motivation is, I gotta stop these fucking idiots from making this problem worse.
Yeah, and also, like, when you hear about these people, you're like, oh yeah, somebody should take care of those because they could threaten my home country, and you do actually have some global interests. Like, your character, who's pretty selfish, probably, still has concerns that make you a better character than two of them, at least. The third one tries.
Claude, I don't know what Claude wants. I don't know what Claude wants out of anything. He just wants to talk to the voice in his head, which seems to always go terribly.
He really does. I mean, honestly, I'm fine with him talking to the voices. The thing is, he always chooses the bad voices in his head. He's got 3 really terrible voices, and he always defaults to those 3, it seems like, nowadays.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk to a tree folk, this nice half-dragon lady, a couple of the other ones. Yeah. No, it's like, should I talk to the fiend, the Phyrexian, or the shadow monstrosity?
Yeah. All great choices.
But all of them have their places, but he never... It's like he has weird times where he addresses them. Like, I've got to be honest. I had stuff planned out if he ever tried to talk to the Fiend. The Fiend is not a nice thing in his body.
No, it's a fiend.
Not. Yeah. It's a horrible...
Evil.
It's very evil. It's a very terrible thing. But, he could get information out of that thing. Honestly, that could have been helpful at some of the points in time. He talked about addressing it a couple of times where it would have been useful. He didn't then. It's like, granted, the Phyrexian, that wasn't a bad choice there, I feel like, honestly.
Okay, that's, fine, I guess. Maybe.
It's
not great.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. There was a lot of bad choices in this week's episodes that, culminated in that. So I feel like it was driven there by other players.
I just love that in Wrath. The thing is, that always gets brought up as the defensive. Everyone in the party has done something terrible. I haven't. I've done nothing wrong. I've been here. I have done nothing against this world that you people have done.
Yeah. You're a victim of the horrible thing. Your involvement in the Dracolich is none. Same with Claude. You two were not really involved.
No, that wasn't our fault.
No.
That's fine. I'll just kill both of them post-campaign.
Carrie might be able to spare if she.
No, Carrie can live. She's probably fine.
She can go hang out with squirrels that she'll probably murder and then, have other squirrel friends and basically, I don't know, do something stupid and horrible that, Kaz would have done, but on a squirrel level.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens in the squirrel world, it's not my problem.
Yeah, it really isn't. A squirrel world in Urborg. Ugh.
Yeah, it's really not my problem.
I mean, this last episode, we did establish why Urborg's people live there. It's great farmland. It's a volcanic swamp.
As Carrion's bullshit stays confined to that one place, I don't care.
Yeah. But again, that's a thing that, there is large plot that they've been following, but sort of. I feel like the small plot in that game just takes over so many times.
Yes. That's kind of the problem with Wrath.
Yeah.
It's side quests to the adventure.
And I think that's an issue that we kind of get back to here. You have to be careful that your small plots don't outshadow your big plots. Again, you can hit that big plot whenever you want to. But if it's established, don't have the small things be bigger than it long term.
No. If you're at the point where you've established your villain, you probably shouldn't really give out small plots anymore.
Yeah.
Or if you do, they should be one-offs vaguely in the direction of big evil.
Yeah. Granted, there were 2 big plots that started off in the first kind of episode. Getting the Predator's engines and building an airship, and evil people that are interested in the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
These are the 2 big plots that started off really early on. So, coming to Urborg and getting the engine was part of the big plot. That was the thing. That was the big thing we were trying to get done. It was Kaz's big goal for the entire adventure, pretty much. And it's going to mirror stuff going on over here, on the other big plot. That I've managed to maintain. But there's, school adventures were weird and there was a little bit of plot point and a lot of not plot point.
Don't let your players go to college for a year in-game.
A couple of weeks, a month at most, might have been okay.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, like, the amount of mistakes I made in Wrath have been large. I've managed to deal with a lot of them, but it's caused these problems long term, you know. You can make mistakes, and you can still make interesting plot, but be careful with your small plots because they will build up, and they can add up to something larger you don't want to deal with. That's another thing about small plots. They can combo themselves. Be careful. You know, if you, let's get a good example. Maybe your big goal is to colonize a region or something, or bring order to a region, and there's like a small town in there, and I have 5 plots that the characters have to deal with, small wise, that deal with bandits. They might start thinking there's a massive bandit problem in the area, and they might start thinking, because it would sound logical, maybe there's some kind of bandit lord. Now they're dealing with bandit lord that may or may not exist, which logically you might want to make exist if they're thinking that. You know, you could shit them and not have it there, but that's kind of disappointing if that's what they're thinking is there. You have to play off of that. But you've changed it now that, like, it's bandit destroying, and then sort of side we're also bringing things to the Savage Land or something, you know. It's really all about the bandits. But you've done that by accident, by spitballing, by comboing. And it can happen. Small plots can add up to a big plot, and so it's a big plot you weren't planning on.
Yeah.
So just... plot is important. Plot is going to be there in your games no matter what. In order to drive it, some form of plot, small or big.
Yeah.
Just, you gotta almost think of the story as a whole. A lot of times. And again, that draws back to when you're deciding how long your campaign is going to be and how epic you want it to be. Again, like, a very much smaller plot of, like, you know, there's some trouble around a town, let's go take care of it. You could have a big plot, you know, maybe like some other country's been having, like, you know, looks on your regions trying to destabilize it. They don't want an all-out war on it, you know, so that could be your big plot, and that's why there's a lot of these problems around town. And you're like, oh, it's those guys again, trying to destabilize our region so they have an excuse to move in here and take over. Or something stupid.
Bastards.
Those bastards. Kingdom C. But, you know, you can do bigger. And that's a way of doing it. You know, I'm detracting a lot, you know, from what we're talking.
Plots are hard, but you need
fucking hard. Oh, my God. Like, it's sort of like, I got some other good examples, I think, of games that were long-term that had plots that, like, sort of tied them together. I'll take Legacies of Kain. I really drew together the entire plot I'd sort of established in the last 20 to 30% of the game. There were hints at it and things going on and some stuff that was happening that was technically related to it. But really, the overall plot really got way in that last bit there. I mean, there was, like, things that happened here and there sort of related into it, but, like, it's sort of like, we need this help from this person that's kind of related to that plot, but we have to go do all this other shit in order to do it. And that's not a bad way of doing it. It actually worked out for having a bunch of small plots that led to the big plot. I kind of tied them back in all the time to it, you know? I think Records of Evil only had a big plot. It really didn't have small plots. You guys invented them for me.
Yeah, and then I had to join to drag them to the end.
Yeah. It was sort of like a lot of, like, okay, we're working on the big plot. Even, like, a lot of the places they went to was all big plot related and stuff like that. A lot of times, you know, it was
Very big plot game.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily bad. It's just the characters had weird motivations that didn't really... I don't feel like they overworked.
No.
I don't think any of the characters had proper motivation. They just pretended to.
I don't think any of them were evil.
I'm pretty sure we had a true neutral, a chaotic neutral, a neutral evil.
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
Worm's character was neutral evil.
Yeah.
You know, they willingly made deals with devils to get revenge.
Fair.
But they were like barely neutral evil. They weren't like maniacal. They're just like they just do bad things because they feel like it's the right answer. You know?
I think most of what I do for my plots again is I start out with smaller ones and then I lead into big ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that usually works out fine. I don't usually decide on what the big plot's gonna be until like they're a third of the way through with the game. That's usually around when I decide, because they'll have focused on something enough by then that I'm like, okay, you're interested in doing this one, I'll flesh this one out.
Yeah, I can see that for when you're trying to like build in the game. I feel like you can also half build a big plot.
Yeah.
I think an example of a game where that's the way I established it, even though I in mind had the bigger plot in mind, you know, the way I established it is like Madness of the Land when I was running that. The big plot was that people saw our castle got teleported from our dimension to another dimension with everybody in it. Shit. Where the fuck are we? What's going on? You know? We just got dimension kidnapped.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big plot. You don't know what's going on there, and everything revolves around that big plot of, well, let's make sure everything's good in the city, help it out, kind of things like that. And if you go back and watch Madness of the Land, there's a lot of issues with that, because, again, I was trying to use 5th edition instead of Pathfinder, which it really was made for Pathfinder, the adventure I wrote. And a lot of other little things about the way I established stuff for a seasonal-based show. That was my mistake. I didn't know how to do seasonal-based shows very well.
It's always a learning experience.
Yeah.
Never stop learning.
But there was a lot of small plots going on, all beholden to that big plot occasionally, and there was a big plot related to that one. They just didn't know it. Weren't gonna. They started learning about it when I was playing through that, kinda, you know. But I think that's also a way to do it too. You can give them half the big plot and worry about the rest later.
I think the game I ran a while ago where you played Badger. I think this is a good example of how you can have a big plot but not feel like it's, you know, immediately focusing on the big plot, right?
Yeah.
That game, I presented 3 small plots. Increase in bandit activity, kobold sightings, weird things going on near a shrine. Granted, you did the kobold one, which is fine. All 3 of those would have eventually led to you fighting a half-dragon. Which would have then led to you figuring out, oh, they're trying to invade.
Yeah. So it all kind of leads to the same point, but you kind of like...
It all leads to the same person causing all the problems.
I think this is something I have to learn to do more of too, because I don't always do this. Make like a chart or something.
Yeah.
With your ideas.
Flowchart your game.
You can do it in your head. It might be better to write it out. But give a little flow chart of how you want things to go. On a very, very general level. Because you're going to be beholden to your players no matter what and what they do. Granted, like, this even works in pre-made adventures. Read the adventure. Figure out what those big plot points are, so that you can easier introduce those plot points to your players.
Yep. With Star Wars, the way I planned it out was I basically was like, okay, how is a Star Wars movie laid out? In acts. You have the beginning act where the heroes are reluctantly kind of stirred to action, usually with the promise of money or some shit, or they're forced into it. Then you have where they go out in the big open world. I just basically laid it out like a Star Wars movie, which is maybe why it feels a little bit like things are out of your tier of play, because how Star Wars divulges information is someone vomited at you.
Yeah. I think that's the thing too, is that like getting information,
and
it's
to be
related
fair,
to the plot, and it's hard to like.
and to be fair, in that game, you guys have not really asked anyone anything. You're not really asked questions to people. You kind of tried to just assume and piece it together yourselves.
Yeah.
Which you've gotten most of it, but you're really missing what the scale of this is still unknown to you. And that might become clear when you talk to some people.
Yeah, I think
it's hard for me to tell you the scale of something that's going on in the other side of the galaxy.
It really is. We can assume something's going on, but like the real scale of it is very hard.
I'll tell you, you guys have kind of assumed the worst.
I'm actually happy that we've been assuming the worst.
You've assumed more or less the worst, which isn't bad.
But
because
like,
with the information you've gathered, I could see how you would assume the worst outcome.
Yeah. So it being better off than what we've assumed is actually pretty nice, honestly. Yeah, I think this comes to me another topic we'll have to have for another week that I've just put down now of giving your players information the right way.
It's hard.
We'll have to talk about that. That'll be a topic for another day, but that does relate to the plot sometimes too. Information in general, because again, you want your players to make the most informed decisions and informed choices, and that can always be difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's less that I make a check, I learn something, or I talk to this person, I learn something. You have to make the right choice to make that check or talk to that person, and you might not always think to do that.
Yeah. Or you might overthink it as well and ask the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm eating.
No, that's fine. I've still been trying to finish my lunch here, which I'll probably do once we're done the show, but I've been working through it. So yeah, I think your plot's going to be important, and the way that it happens. Just I can't never not harken back to I always will harken back to that core of it of just think a little bit about what you want your game to be.
Plan ahead of time. When you're building your game, plan the vagueness of your plot out a little bit. Map it out,
It's sort of like Shonen Wrath. I knew it was going to be a longer campaign. Okay? But that was the big thing the first out beginning. So I didn't know how long campaign I wanted, but it was a longer campaign. That helps for bigger plots. Buccaneers. The good thing about working off Adventure Path is I know there are 6 acts. I have put together a kind of 6.5 act that I'll kind of do at the end of the game, so like that I'm trying to build into something that'll kind of happen at the back end that'll be like a finale more than the finale they have. I think I want to do like my own little story finale for things that are a little bit more personal to your characters. You know? That I'm trying to build. And that's not going to be like a full adventure thing. It'll be like maybe like a couple sessions or something tacked on the end. Related to
we've all got drama that we need to deal with.
Yeah. And I'm like establishing things of like, oh, you can go find this cool artifact or something, and that could be done then or earlier, depending on like the choices you make and things like that. But that kind of thing is what I'm putting together, and I'm trying to use the pre-existing plot, but also meld it in certain ways to make it more personal. And that's a good thing.
That's fair.
That you don't need to do that in a pre-made adventure, but you can. And like, it's just it's like Momo knew how much you wanted to do for Star Wars, for the Cyberpunk game. Those.
I planned out the entirety of the Cyberpunk game before running. Mm-hmm. Granted, I've had to change certain things because people have made some very interesting decisions.
Yeah, but it still is like
you're still point A, point Z as I planned.
Mm-hmm.
I've just had to deviate a little bit.
You might have had to like skip press like D and go to a new D.
I'll be honest. Summoning my old character was a decision that threw things off a little bit.
Uh-huh. It's fine. Look, we all make choices. I'm going to have a giant mech and it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Championship mech fighter.
You also like an emissary to the rats now.
I don't know what I want to do. I might just leave that there and just not
leave that one for later.
That's a later problem. Like, it just having that as a thing that's like part of the character is kind of silly and interesting, and I'm just like, I'll leave that one there. I don't need to dive into that one. Like,
Don't give more work, please. It's a level 5 game.
I'm okay with not giving you more work on that one, definitely. That's a epilogue problem, not
that's an epilogue session problem.
Yeah, or just doesn't come up.
Where you have to betray your good friend the Rat King, unfortunately, because he's gone a little bit tyrannical. But thankfully, he's a dire rat, so he's not that hard to kill.
No. And it was a constitutional monarchy anyway, so I can support the rat parliament, becoming the de facto government of their people, you know?
I've set up a lot of lore for this chat. It'll be in my next adventure.
It'll just be silly. But anyway. Let's talk about our games of the week. We kind of hit up on them. With Star Wars, we contacted...
we made progress.
We made progress.
So we'll start with good old... I finished the Fallout one-shot finally.
Oh, you did finish the Fallout one-shot.
Yeah, it was interesting times.
Mm-hmm.
You were given a moral quandary of, oh wait, these things are technically sentient.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't pick the murder path.
Mm-hmm.
You decided to help it. Which made you fight an Enclave boy in the most hilarious and stupid way I could have imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing a tomahawk into its fusion cell.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It was a great idea.
Yeah. I'm sad that I didn't have any complications left. Because there were two things I could have done to sell. I could have done a complication and had him land in a vat, and then he'd be a super mutant. I could have killed him with his mini nuke, because it would have been funny.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no complications left, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was a nice little wrap-up. You got information. I slotted in a bunch of Fallout 2 references I don't think anyone got, because I don't think anyone in that party played Fallout 2.
I know a little bit about the plot of Fallout 2, but I've not played it.
Because the whole thing, because you found a message that was like, blah, 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 hey, make super soldiers work on FEV. That's basically what the Enclave did in Fallout 2. Was like, hey, we're going to turn the FEV into a super plague that kill all of the planet except for us.
Yeah.
Comic book villains.
They are comic book villains.
Also, I mentioned my boy Frank Horrigan, the greatest Fallout character.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know who Frank Horrigan is, he's the final boss of Fallout 2, and he's a super mutant in power armor. He's also voiced by Worf.
Mm-hmm. Or Michael Dorn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've read up on Fallout 2, haven't played it, so I remember half of that
100%
stuff.
on it. It's completely fair to have not played Fallout 2. It is not aged well. This is speaking of someone who has finished it again recently. It is not aged well.
I thought about playing Fallout 1, but I saw
that is
someone...
aged even worse.
I saw someone play through part of it, and I was like, no.
Not like those Fallout 1 and 2 have aged so badly.
Just watching someone that, play through it for the first time, I'm just like, no.
I always love when I watch someone play Fallout 1, and they die in the rat cave at the start of the game. I'm like, I can see why people don't play this game nowadays.
Mm-hmm. The rat cave is pretty damn deadly.
It's actually pretty hard. And also, if you walk 5 tiles to the left at the start of the game, the ending of the game is right there.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Straight to the ending. You're straight to it.
Yeah, there's actually, like, the speedrunning strategies have high survival, so you can avoid all encounters. Just go to the ending of the game. You can beat the game in 10 minutes.
Jesus. That's very silly, but I like it. So yeah, finished our Fallout, and then we had Cyberpunk Adventures.
It's Cyberpunk. You did a lot of talking, people.
We did.
You met the mages. You learned they're not so bad. Just weird and have an old way of thinking. You're gonna go to You're gonna go to Old Magic Island. You have to make a stop in Old Dwarf Land because that's the only way you can actually get there because there's no landing strip on that island. Also, you met a druid who knows about the rats.
I mean, look, that only reassured my character that they didn't go crazy while down in that sewer and imagine all the rat shit. I also, like, if I had the opportunity, I was actually thinking about, like, when we were in our apartments, to have, like, one of them be say, like, you just notice there's a rat knocking on Jenric's door or something.
There's a rat shows up.
Yeah, it's just, like, I was gonna say that and just have you open the door to the rat or something.
The rat comes in.
Yeah, but we didn't have an opportunity to do that.
This dog-sized rat.
I was gonna mess with everybody to do that, but I didn't have a chance to, so that's fine. It was probably for the best. We had enough distractions.
It was a bit of a slow session. Not much happened. I reused a puzzle from previous game that Cell was both in and solved, and then he couldn't figure it out in this game.
Yup. I have to admit, I might be like that. If someone came up with the puzzle that they've already showed me again, like, you know, with a different facade on top of it, I might not remember. I remember I faced some puzzles in some games. The answer to those puzzles and what puzzles they were, I don't know if I remember them, honestly, at the time.
Yeah, true. Cyberpunk. There's only, like, I don't know how many steps.
No, not a lot.
Not many.
We're good.
You're getting to the end. Oh, God.
Then Star Wars, where...
And there was Star Wars, where you went to talk to Ravshai. You learned that Ravshai has a big old fuck-off fleet made of Republic and Confederate ships, also known as a Rebel fleet.
Yeah.
Found out one of your previous companions is fully in the rebellion now.
Yep.
And then you went to Lothal to go and do some trials that were, once again, very easy puzzles.
Yeah.
I have solutions for all the puzzles. Well, you figured out, because I gave each puzzle 2 solutions. The visions didn't really have a solution. That was on the players. I'll decide what your choices meant later. The dome, the 2 options were force your way out either via check or damage, or just wait. The orbs that were being focused on, they needed balance. There were 2 options for that. What you did, which was cast the opposite force power on the corresponding orb, or make them lose concentration. So shooting them was technically a solution. It was the bad solution, but it was a solution. It was very funny. And then there was a combat fight. It wasn't too bad.
It was fine. I got upset at some people and yelled at them, so we're down 2 players for a combat. And it was like...
So I scaled the combat back a bit, so I didn't actually kill anyone.
I was like, I feel like that was a point in time where it was more like, because honestly, I have really not cared. It was definitely like we were doing stuff in character, and I feel like very in character to be like, I can only have so much patience for this shit.
Yeah, heat of the moment, you know, for that character. And I did talk to everyone post-game. Everyone is fine. Yeah. There's no hard feelings.
There should be able to have that kind of thing, but I do understand, like, it's sometimes you worry that...
I've been in games where people have done the character has outbursted action a little too far, and it kind of spoils the game a bit.
Yeah, it can affect the players, too, not just the characters. And it can happen. You can have that kind of stuff, but you have to be careful.
you gotta be, you just measure how much you're gonna have the toad be.
Mm-hmm. So.
But now you're gonna go talk to Bendu.
Mm-hmm. We are.
I have to research because I don't remember anything about him from Rebels.
Other than he's Tom Baker.
Other than he's Tom Baker and he's fucking ginormous.
Ginormous to the extreme. We had Buccaneers, which you learned about. Yakul's compass watch. Finally, that he got from someone in the land of the dead. He's like, I was dead and I got this, and I didn't think it was very important. It's a very Yakul thing. I'm like, well, whatever. I actually was thinking, originally when I gave it to him, I was thinking of using it in, like, a couple different ways. I hadn't decided. And then, like, I went for the one when, eventually giving it to you now, like, what it was. I like that one better than, like, some of the other ideas I had. But, yeah, compass watch. He figured out what it is and what it does and kind of things like that. And maybe you can use it in the future to find some stuff.
Maybe. Or Eric will forget about it again.
Yeah. Maybe it does more stuff every time you give it a gem. You never know. Maybe some mysterious things will start to happen now that you've put the diamond in there. So we'll see. I might do stuff, that Yakul will have weird stuff happen to him he doesn't know about. More weirdness for Yakul. We'll see. But we're moving on to doing some, like, a little bit of side treasure hunting, and then we're going to go to the main plot of a big old island to secure and maintain, because that's, like, honestly, like, between 66 to 75% of the entire 4th season will be that island. It is, like, granted, you don't have to do everything on the island, but it's the idea of, we need to secure this island, remove the major problems, because we want to live here, build a colony, and then once all that's done, invite some people in here for the last thing, for a big old party. Mm-hmm. To show off that we're totally pirate lords. And then I had Children of Wrath, in which they made some choices about a Phyrexian warship that was buried in the swamp, and did find the engines of the Predator right at the end of the session.
Yeah. Man, I was thinking back on that whole warship thing. Isn't it just the strangest thing that Claude and I were right? That it was a bad idea?
Yes! Because I've long since established, like, I put it there for you to find, and you could have done other stuff with it, but the choice of getting rid of it was the smart choice, and I established that, like, because the thing is, it's like, it's an organic world, and I wanted, I had a couple of ways you could have gone about it. Honestly, the easiest way would be to, like, cast, like, legend lore or some kind of shit on the part of the ship you have, and you'd be able to find out more information about where the fucking other half is. I said, there's some divination spells that could do this.
Weird. I know. It's almost like magic exists.
Yeah, I specifically mentioned that, and they didn't go that route. They went the let's resurrect an old warship route.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't get to execute a warship.
Yeah.
With a 7th level.
It was good. Look,
Look, I gave them the chance to decide themselves, and they wanted to talk forever.
Look, you could have removed the brain successfully and had a weird machine brain that had, like, I don't know, 3-year-old knowledge, maybe like gorilla level intelligence or something. You could say it's there. You could have done something with it. I don't know, but you could have had it.
Fucking just like they take forever to make so many decisions that I'm just like, if you keep talking, we're gonna die in here, so I'm gonna kill it.
Yes. I did specifically mention it's unleashing a horrible amount of poisons and viral material that is left over from the processing that makes it basically easy for things like Phyrexian oil or Phyrexian diseases to affect you. Because the Phyrexians were horrible, and they make plans for the genocide that they had diseases to commit genocide.
Yes.
Why not have our warships belch something out that if our enemies breathe it, they're vulnerable to our diseases that commit genocide. Oh, just to make sure everyone dies.
Yep.
That's the kind of villains the Phyrexians were.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's canon, but I made it canon, and it actually fits very well with the type of people they were.
Just like, make your decisions a little quicker.
Yeah.
Please.
You were warned about that, and they're just, like, fucking around.
I had a Friday game.
You had a Friday game. How'd that go?
Yeah, Shadowrun's a Friday game. It's neat. We went to a tomb to go kill some gnolls. Turns out gnolls are real dumb.
I mean...
easy to kill, too. So we killed the gnolls previously, and we had to escort prisoners back to town. We got lore vomited all over us. Real gross and awful. We went back, and, a druid had moved in, also known as an owlbear, because that's what druids are now, an owlbear. So we had to kill an owlbear. That was the only combat we had was an owlbear. Cell learned owlbears are shit in 5th edition.
Yes, that's why, like, when people were complaining about the person turning into an owlbear, I'm like, why? They're shit.
Cell comes from Pathfinder mostly, where owlbears actually, like, matter.
Well, for low-level characters. Owlbears are still like a CR 2 or 3. They're still shit in Pathfinder. They're just less shit than they are in 5e.
Yeah, owlbear in 5e is CR3 apparently. It's not.
Oh, it's one of those that's really like a CR2, but they pretend it's a 3?
It's more like a CR... I wouldn't even say it's CR2. Because it only does... It has multi-attack, sure. That's maybe what drives the CR up, but it only does, like... It does so little damage. And it has, like, no abilities beyond a keen sense of smell and sight.
Pathfinder owlbear is CR4.
That makes sense. Yeah, so learn that owlbears are just shit. Yeah, and then we went down some stairs that were dickhead illusion stairs. Basically, like, we went down a flight of stairs, and it was the stairs from Mario 64, where you hit the backwards long jump up to, skip half the game. And then we dispelled the illusion, got to the bottom of the tunnel, only to find a message that was basically, "Fuck you, I hope you enjoyed my illusion."
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Apparently we're fighting a trickster cleric.
Oof.
They're assholes. Lightning and I wanted to leave the temple, like, forever, because fuck that place. But our cleric decided to break down a wall, which might lead into the Underdark? I don't know. So now we're going into a big cave, which 2 of us don't want to go into. And Cell wasn't expecting that outcome, and then I had to tell Cell, you need to expect all the outcomes you present, buddy, because players are going to pick the wrong one.
Players always pick the wrong thing. So you either have to, like, again, like, it's sort of like, we've talked about this before. There's 2 strategies: either adapt your plan and eventually, like, have them all link back, or the easy one is all roads all roads lead to Rome. Just have all of them lead to it. It's like, oh, you made that choice. It still leads to the same place.
It's like
that place is just over there now instead of the other place.
There are games that I've run where I have given up on trying to figure out what players are gonna do. I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'll make something up. God, please, just go do plot. I beg you.
Yeah.
I usually just make something up when players pick random decisions I didn't prep for. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Sometimes I punish people by making every door a mimic door in the next dungeon because they wouldn't stop kicking doors open.
Mimic door. Oops, all mimics. That's just what you're gonna give them. Oops, all mimics.
Yeah. Mimics are my favorite monster in 5th edition.
I mean, like, I gotta be honest, I one day, because I haven't really had the chance to use it, I will once again use the the mimic rogues from Pathfinder.
Coffin mimic?
Well, they don't have to be coffins, they could be something else, but they're just mimic rogues. Just like a higher level campaign, just mimics with levels of rogue.
Yep.
They'll just fucking sneak attack you to a bajillion degrees when they first hit you.
Yeah.
there you go. Enjoy. But anyway. It was a busy week of gaming this week for some of
Yeah,
us
we had games.
So, I think that's a great place to land. I'm getting hot and would like to turn this light off, honestly.
Yeah, it's warm.
Like, I can last only so long in the heat at this point in time. I think it's also because, honestly, we were storming last night, so things are just humid.
Yeah, it's humid today.
Yeah, it's a very humid day. I was raining a bunch last night. I can feel the extra humidity is driving up this temperature just enough to make it a little worse. It's like one of those days. I'm glad it's not as hot as it was the other day, because this hot and that humid. Anyway, so I'll be back Monday with some stuff. Probably more Final Fantasy 12. Honestly, I've been doing a lot of that. Doing a bunch of stuff off stream for like a lot of the farming that takes, honestly, normally hours, but like, a little bit of time off stream because of ×4 shit. Spending 20 minutes to get some farming done that I don't have to show you guys it because it's not that entertaining. I like doing it, and it gets me some stuff I want in the game. I have satisfaction on that end, but it ain't entertaining.
No, it's not fun to watch farming.
No, I'm running back and forth in a room and murdering something. Especially some of those... I had to kill a few rare monsters that way, because they just don't spawn. Honestly, do, a lot of weird things over and over again. They are not fun to, farm on stream. It'd be like, I could get all the rare monster hunts. Not really. They're not entertaining. Anyway, so I'll do more of that. Expect Buccaneers on Wednesday, which, depending on how things go, you might actually get to the island at hand in at least the first part of it. Maybe we'll figure out where you're making landfall. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be nice.
Because the two things could take a while, or could they be short? I'm not making any of these legendary treasures of particularly large things. They're like little mini adventures that could take between a third to a half a session. Honestly, maybe a little bit more depending on the way you go about things. So, and then of course, Children of Wrath on Thursday, which I'm going to have the big plot come back with a vengeance.
Plot? What's that? Let's go to college for you.
I'm just gonna toss it in front of them and hope and see what they decide on that one.
I'll want to do it at least.
I mean, I will have a choice for one possible side-based thing that will be suggested, and they can make a choice about it. So they can go right into the finale or actually do something either I will work with. I don't know what they're going to want to choose. I feel like they normally choose to get the, let's learn more information about what the fuck is going on choice, because they like doing that. But they don't need to. So, anyway. And that is, I think, it for them. I think that's the main schedule. So, I'll let people know about, anything else I do in the future. I'll probably do theoretically do some more Wrath of Righteous. I honestly keep pushing. I was busy this Wednesday, and then I was like, I could reschedule it. But I don't really want to do the Crusade stuff. It's not terrible. It's just not... It's like a... So far, I would say... It's like a poor man's tactical RPG. It's like, like a poor man's XCOM.
Yeah.
That's really what it felt like to me for the first battle I had. I'm like, this is just like... This is not good. Anyway. We'll see. Maybe I can do more actual adventures with characters. But, yeah, so, that's it for now. I'm gonna get going. At least be back Monday. If I do anything else, I'll let people know. So, bye for now, folks.
Bye.